Alright friends, we're going to read chapter 12 of My Teachers and Aliens, starts on page 79. Chapter 12, Things Get Weirder. I didn't think it was all that weird when Stacy Benoit called me a Saturday morning to see how I was doing. After all, she's my friend, and she did think I fainted in school the day before. I didn't realize when I laughed and told her there wasn't anything wrong with me that I only confirmed her worst fears. I didn't figure that out until Monday morning, when our class turned into something from the Twilight Zone. Until that point, I had other things to worry about, like what to do about Miss Schwartz. Since my mother wouldn't let me out of the house, I spent a long time discussing this force field thing with Peter over the phone. He told me he was pretty sure that Mrs. Schwartz was actually safer inside that thing than she would be walking in the street. She probably doesn't like it in there, he said. I know I wouldn't, but nothing's gonna hurt her. Well, doesn't she have to eat or go to the bathroom or something? I asked nervously. I could almost see Peter shrugging over the telephone. I don't think so, he said. I have a feeling time is pretty much holding still inside that thing. So unless she has had to go to the bathroom when he put it let me start that sentence over. So unless she had to go to the bathroom when he put her in there, she's probably fine. He paused and then added, Come to think of it, that force field could be that woman's dream. She won't age a bit. Don't be a malchauvinist, Piglet, I said angrily. This is serious. I know it's serious, snapped Peter, but we can't do anything about it this weekend, unless you know of a time when we can be sure that Broxton won't be there. I suppose you're right, I said. But the thought of Miss Schwartz trapped in that force field gnawed away at me for the rest of the day and all day Sunday too. I had to get her out of there. I was still stewing about that on Monday until things got so weird that I forgot about Miss Schwartz for a while. It started with Duncan Dougal, who walked into the class carrying the biggest apple I've ever seen in my life. Good morning, Mr. Smith, he said. How are you today? His voice was so syrupy sweet and made me want to throw up. I looked away and then looked back so fast it made me crink in my neck. Duncan? I thought in astonishment. The class bully put an apple on Mr. Smith's desk, then went to his own desk, sat down, and folded his hands neatly in front of him. I squeezed my eyes shut and then opened them again to see if anything would change. But the apple was still there, and Duncan was still sitting at his desk, smiling like a little angel. What was going on here? When I opened my desk, I found a note that said, I think you're the bravest person I've ever met. It was signed, A Friend. Who had it come from and why? I looked around the room, but the others all bent over their desks, working busily away. I turned back to my work, trying to figure out what was going on. But even the weird stuff that had happened so far hadn't prepared me for what was next. You pig-faced baboon! Yelled a familiar voice. Stacy? Stacy Benoit? The girl most likely to be declared a saint while still living? I turned around and saw Stacy standing beside her desk, shouting at Mike Foran, the only kid I had ever heard of who never gotten in trouble with a teacher. Shut up, yelled Mike. Shut up, you creep! Then Stacy slapped him across the face. I almost fell out of my chair. Of course Stacy wouldn't slap that well, having never done it before, so it was kind of a wimpy little slap, but this was Stacy Benoit, for heaven's sake. Stacy, yelled Mr. Smith, who was sitting at the back of the room with a reading group. Michael, what is going on up there? He started for the front of the room, but he was too late. When Stacy slapped Mike, he jumped up so fast he knocked over his desk. His face was red, and I didn't realize until later it was from stage fright. Your mother wears I wanted to prompt him. It was so pathetic to see the nicest kid in class try to come up with a withering insult. And even more pathetic when he finally finished it up with, Your mother wears polyester! But it seemed to do the trick. Stacy began to shriek in outrage. Mr. Smith reached them just in time to keep them from going at each other's throats. The rest of you stay in your seats, he ordered. I'll be back in a minute. Then he walked out the door, dragging the 2 best-behaved kids in 6th grade along with him. They were kicking and screaming every step of the way. I closed my eyes and I shook my head. I was sure I was awake. So what was going on? Was this the same planet I had gone to sleep on? I couldn't wait for recess so I could talk to Peter. And that's the end of chapter 12.